Hey everybody. So I just wanted to come on and record this video and talk a little bit about my journey. As many of you know, as you've seen all over Facebook, I'm moving to Paris, Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. Um, and I'm sure many of you are wondering like how that all came about. Um, I've been living in New York City for the past 3 years, and I've just been so grateful for my life here. I came here, completely by faith. I was gifted with a free plane ticket to get here. To get an interview, I got into New York City Teaching Fellows and program, and I've been a teacher for 3 years here, and I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. Ministry wise and church wise, I've been involved with Global Celebration School of Ministry and many different different churches here in New York City, City Light, J Hop, and I've just been so blessed to like have a crazy good friends here and a great Christian community here. And even non-Christian, like my coworkers, for the most part, have been fantastic. Um, and so, there's really, I was stable, I was comfortable. I just got my, first studio in the city and all of this kind of stuff. And, strangely enough, I thought I was going to be here. I thought I was going to live in New York City. I thought New York City was going to be my home. But I just want to share with you about how this process came about. And just so you know, like for those of you out there who don't know this, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I have been for many, many years now. And I came here based on faith. And so my Christian principles and my belief system, they are what drives every single decision that I make. And even my decision to come to New York City was based on what I felt like Jesus was telling me. And yes, I do believe he talks to me. And I do believe he actually speaks to me through other people. And so I wanted to share this video because I think that if you know me, you know that it's just, I'm a responsible individual and I like stability. And sometimes what we least expect to happen, even in the midst of, our thoughts about what was going to happen, sometimes things happen a very different way. And so so the story starts off like this. About November of 2014, I started to get what I would call an impression. Like I started to see Paris, France, like everywhere. So what does that mean? It means that I would see like Paris on people's t-shirts, and it would seem like it would be highlighted to me. I would see commercials about France. I would see billboards. I would see just different things. I would run into people speaking French. It was just everywhere. And I know that probably doesn't seem like, oh, that doesn't seem like anything but a coincidence, but it was happening a lot. And so much so that I started to pray and I started to ask the Lord, like what this meant. And I was like, I don't understand why I keep seeing France. I mean, I've been living in New York, but a similar thing had happened to me when it was time for me to come to New York. Like New York, stuff about New York was everywhere. And it seemed like it was just, screaming at me off the page, And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start praying. And not long after that, they had one of the first terrorist attacks. And I was just like, wow, like, serious things are going on in that city. And so this happened for a couple of months up until February. But the night before my 33rd birthday, yes, I'm 33. I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I was saying how like I feel like God has really been talking to me about Paris, just highlighting it, and like I've seen all these news stories and all this stuff, and they just had a terrorist attack, and I want to pray for them, like But I really feel like I have this sense from Jesus that I'm going to go there someday. And I don't know why. I've never even thought about Paris before a couple months ago. And there's, I've never been. There's no reason. I don't really know anybody there. So it's nothing like that, like drawing me there. So that next day, a good friend of mine, she for my birthday, I always love to get encouraging words about like what's my year going to be like and what's God going to do and what should I be focused on. And so when I gathered together my friends, that's what we do with each other. We just speak life over each other and talk about like the goodness of God. And so I had a good friend, and she didn't know anything about the conversation that I had with my other friend. And she goes, I just see you in France. Like, I see God. I think God's sending you to Paris. And it was like, whoa, like there's no way you could have known that. That is crazy that you know that. And in the Christian world, we call that prophecy. And so for those of you who don't know that. So I decide like, oh my gosh, that's total confirmation of what I've been feeling. And so, because that's what, prophecy does, like the things that you feel like are on the inside of you, it really will draw those things out and confirm what God is speaking to you. And so I am like flabbergasted and like joyful and excited about what God's going to do. And so I start talking to other friends about it, and I'm like, man, I have this sense from God, like it's going to be soon. It's not going to take me long to get there. And one friend says to me, I feel like it's actually going to be this summer that you're going. And I'm like, whoa, this summer, And then another friend says, well, I think it's going to be August. So in August of 2015, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going this summer. I don't know why. I don't know anyone there, but we're just going to see what's going to happen, We're just going to step out on faith and just believe that, God will line everything up. So the night, I go through my summer. Nothing really happens out of the ordinary, just like more confirmation, but nothing out of the ordinary. And so it's the night of July, I think 30th. I can't remember if July has 30 or 31 days. But the night of the last day in July, say it like that. I went to bed and I have this thing in my mind and I'm like, okay, God, well, if you're sending me to Paris, just please confirm it. And by the way, I don't have any money for a ticket, so you're going to have to help. Please provide for that, And so the very next day, I get up and I was going to a conference up in the Bronx at a wonderful church up there to see some pastors that I had been familiar with when I lived in California. And I was super excited about that, but the train got delayed. It got delayed crazy. You know how weekend trains are in New York City. It's like you thought you were going to, I left an hour early trying to prepare for that. And then anyway, I still was delayed. And so the next thing I know, I'm in Times Square and I'm waiting for the train to get on so I can finally go to this conference. And I'm good. Now I'm like kind of irritated because I'm going to be late. I look over at this lady's t-shirt. And then and she's singing down in Times Square, and her t-shirt says, "Take me to Paris." And I looked over and I almost died laughing. I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, in Jesus' name, take me to Paris, And so I wasn't expecting to even see that. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just thinking about getting to the conference. I was focused on that. And then that's what happened. So anyway, I go to the conference. I spend most of the day away from my home. Later that night, when I'm on my way back home, I get this phone call. Now, mind you, earlier in the day, I had been praying for people because they allowed us to minister with the speakers and all of that stuff. So that was really fun for me. But I just kind of went on about my day, just focused on whatever, what was in front of me at the moment. And I got a call that night, and a friend was like, hey, have you gotten your ticket yet to France? And I was like, no, I haven't gotten it yet. And it's August 1st when she calls me, and she goes, I'm supposed to pay for your ticket. I really feel strongly that I'm supposed to pay for your ticket. And so she ends up paying for my plane ticket to Paris for me. Crazy supernatural. I ended up finding an Airbnb in France that was like, I got the whole 9 days or something, like a week and a half for like $200, in a beautiful part of Paris, like in a cute little flat, and it was safe and it was nice and clean, and it was just so great, and it was easy. And so that word that my friend had spoken over me, like, I think you're going in August, was confirmed. And I went in August 2015, I went to France for the first time. When I got there, first of all, it's the realization of like when God says something to you in February and you realize it in August, there's something that stirs your faith, but also makes you like, okay, so what's the plan? Like, what am I doing here? And sometimes as a Christian, you can be so focused on like the doing part of something and not the being part. But I was just like, okay, I'm here. Like, what's the assignment? Like, why am I in France? And, other than enjoying it. And I enjoyed it so much. I've never walked around a city and been so in awe of its beauty. And I feel like I want to cry, but like, it was the most beautiful place I'd ever been. The buildings, the architecture, just like these people intentionally made this place so beautiful for the enjoyment, like your eye. It was like a feast for your eyes. It was so beautiful everywhere. And I'm like this little tourist, and I'm taking all these pictures, and my heart is just falling in love with France. And I wasn't expecting that to happen. It just happened. And so I was praying this whole time, and I was walking around these beautiful streets of the city and looking at the view, and I got to go to the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe and all of these places that I never dreamed. I'm from the east side of Detroit, like places I never dreamed I would even see. And, God brought me there. So fast forward, like the last day that I'm in, there's a lot of things that happened there, but the last day that I'm in France, I'm like, don't even want to come home. But I'm like, that's super irresponsible, like, I don't know if that's what God's saying. Like, I began to pray, and I remember, I went to sleep that night, and I closed my eyes, and I saw a picture of New York City, as I was falling asleep, and I knew I was supposed to come back to New York. And I did. And it was one of those moments where, your heart will feel so connected to something, but you're not exactly sure what that even means. And like, I have a lot of experience hearing the voice of God, but I'm still learning too. I don't think you ever stop learning with that. I think that, there's a level of humility in realizing that you don't know everything. And I don't, And so it just meant coming home and just seeing what was what. So fast forward, I go through my school year. I'm up for tenure. I'm getting selected to be a part of a team to go to Stanford University to represent my school. All of these things are happening. All these doors are opening to me in education, and I could easily walk through them. Like, it was great. And I was so honored to be chosen, because I know that, there's a favor on my life, and people respect me and my craft of education, of teaching. And I want to always honor what they respect. But I'm feeling this thing in my heart that's still connected, and I'm not even sure what being connected means. I'm not sure what I would even do there. I'm not sure if I could even go there, or if I could afford to go there. It's easy to assume that, like I have thousands and thousands of dollars saved up somehow secretly, but that wasn't the case. It was just, I was in New York. I came home, felt like I was supposed to get my own apartment, and I did that. God totally opened up that door. That's a whole nother supernatural story of just grace, of being able to live by myself. And I went on through my life. About March, I started to feel really, really exhausted. And I was sharing with some other friends, like, I don't ever think I felt this tired in my life. And I'm a grace and rest person. So if I don't have grace to do something, I won't do it. But I just felt drained all the time. And I just felt like I had no energy. And I'm like, God, what's going on with me? Like, do I need to do something different? And I had changed my eating habits. So I was like, well, is it connected to that? Am I just getting sick? Like, what's happening? This went on till about July. And, I'm still teaching full time. I'm getting tenure. I'm doing I'm cheerleading, coaching cheerleading, which was crazy. And I'm doing still doing stuff with ministry with GCSSM. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. Like, I don't have the energy for anything right now. I don't know what's happening to me. And then it was also my year to get my next level of certification for teaching. And I was like, okay, so, and things started to happen with that where it just wasn't going smoothly. And I'm like, well, what is going on? And so I started to pray, and I started to seek the wise counsel of friends. And some of my friends were like, one of my friends in particular was like, are you sure you're supposed to be doing this next year? Like, really? Like, you love France. Like, why aren't you pursuing that? And so I'm going to be honest here. I'm not pursuing it. Why am I not pursuing it? Well, I'm comfortable. And I'm a little bit scared to leave behind what I've built here for the last 3 years. And I have people I love here. I love my students, all of them, from my students in my classroom in public school to my students, the students that I get to serve at GCSSM, to I have these people that I built relationships with that I love. And is it time for me to leave that now? And it hurt a lot to think about not coming back, not being here. It hurt a lot to think about getting rid of all my stuff and having an apartment that I so loved and felt so good in and peaceful in, and having to now have all that change. And so for me, what it boiled down to was I'm just not going to do it because I'm afraid and I'm comfortable. And yes, people love me here, and it's easy. And I had to examine those parts of my heart that had gotten very comfortable and had sort of loved the ease of being in New York, but was so afraid of letting go that I wouldn't be able to move on to what God was saying was next. And that took a while. It took me to say, there's some areas of fear that I have, even though I've done this before. And I've I moved to New York by faith. I moved to the Republic of Georgia. I taught there for 3 months by faith. I've done this before, but there was something about this transition that was definitely a lot different and a lot harder. And so I just sat on it for months, and I just prayed, and I just sat on it. And I had to go to the Lord and realize that He really, truly is my source, and He is the author and finisher of my faith. And I could stay here, and everyone would love that, and I would love that. But it wasn't really what I was supposed to be doing. And I guess that's the tension all the time when we talk about faith. Like, people who live by faith, we talk about, if you're a Christian, you talk about the Todd Whites, and you talk about the Sean Bolts and the different people in the Christian community who we consider amazing and living by faith. But faith is a real thing. Like, when you say that you're walking it out, you're walking it out. There's a process where you have to you know, maybe they don't have the same process as me, but there's a process where you have to walk it out, and you have to tell yourself you're not going to be afraid. And if you are afraid, you're going to allow yourself to move past the fear and move into what God is calling you to. And so, you know, we applaud the bravery when we hear those testimonies, but I also want to applaud like that process of being able to say to yourself, you know what, self, like, yes, there's doubt and we don't know what's going to happen, but you know what? Do you ever know what's going to happen? Just because I plan to get out of my bed and go to work that morning doesn't mean that that's what I'm going to accomplish. And so we live by faith all the time. We just don't call it that, right? And so I'm going through this process, and I'm realizing, like, at the end of the day, if I'm not going to leave, it's not going to be because God doesn't want me to leave. It's going to be because I'm scared and I can't live that way. So I started to slowly prepare myself and slowly say, okay, Lord, like, whatever you have for me, I lay down my life again and I say yes. Just in the same way that I lay down my life when I go and I, you know, am with my students, I lay down my life for you, for the call of my life for Paris, if that's what you have for me in this season. Well, let's just say when you say yes to God, he says yes to you. And it's funny because even before you ever say yes to him, he's saying yes to you. He's just a good father. And the next thing I know, you know, I'm resting, and in a couple of months, the Lord tells me to go visit my family, and I go visit them, and I'm like slowly telling them, you know, they already kind of know what's happening, but I'm like saying, oh, I think I'm going to be going to France, you know, and they're like, what? Yes, go. I'm coming to visit. You know, they're like really all for it. And I was shocked. I was like, really? You are the same people who years before had a problem with me moving to California, which is only on the other side of the country. And you're now great about me moving on the other side of the world. Jesus has done a work. And like all of these things. And so, you know, people, when I would slowly start to tell people, they weren't even surprised. They were like, of course, like, yeah. So when are you? And I'm like, why is this so easy for all of you and so hard for me? And so, you know, that was just affirmation to go for it, to just dream big and to go for it. And that's what I'm doing. So God has done so much supernatural stuff, which I'm not going to talk about in this video. I'll share in another part of the video blog. I'm going to be starting a video blog, just sharing with you guys what my process is and what it looks like to live in Paris and to walk in faith, living in France, but just walking in faith in general. Like everything that we do is based off of our faith, and faith isn't based on what you can see. You know, sometimes when you're used to hearing the voice of God, or you're used to being in an atmosphere where people prophesy, it's very easy to get into this place where you feel like, oh, I don't have to live by faith because, you know, I can just go get a word. I can go get a prophetic word. I can have my friend who loves me and knows how to hear from God talk to me. And all of that is fine. Like, but we're believers. Our job is to believe, and our job is to live by faith. And that's not to say you never seek out wise counsel, because I believe in that. And that's not to say that you never ask, but you also, this is your relationship with God. And so it's also prudent and wonderful when you walk it out with him and you say, God, I believe you're telling me this. And I know that you can shift my course if I'm going in the wrong direction. I believe that. And please confirm your word to me. But also, like, I do believe that you can do the impossible. And that's the God that we serve. That's the God that I serve. And I'm so grateful and humbled for the support and the love and the encouragement from all of you. And there's so much more to this story. And the story is still being written. But I realize, like, how much of an honor it is to have known all of you. Whether I met you in New York or whether I met you in Florida, it's not like I'm going anywhere like that I can't communicate, but I just wanted to say that I am truly blessed to know all of you and to know that so many of you support me, and to be able to embark on this journey. I feel like I'm taking all of you with me. And that makes me the richest person in the whole world. And so, thank you so much for taking the time for this 25 minutes of watching me and hearing about my process. And I just pray that God would bless each and every one of you. And thank you so much for your support. Bye.